discussing the blacks and whether or not they're going to be loyal to the Democratic Party this election season. So, if it's officially known as the Party of Lincoln, so should it be a no-brainer that black people would embrace the GOP, right? Seriously, has the Democratic Party political failures caused a shift in black voters to disregard the more racist elements of the GOP in favor of their tough on crime and fiscally conservative reputation? As we've said many times in the show, the Republicans are winning the messaging war when it comes to the idea that Democrats are soft on immigration and crime. Chicago is a perfect example. When the city was hit by bus loads of migrants, its black residents and leaders resented the city in response to the care of the caravan, almost making it out as a racial warfare for resources. In July of last year, the Oakland NAACP wanted the city of Oakland to declare a state of emergency over the rise of property crime and demanded the city hire 500 more cops. In 2020, people took to the streets to protest the brutal murder of George Floyd and others. Televised killings were replayed millions of times to watch, while many were sequestered in our homes. We see collectively seeing nothing more. Now the image that plays out loops is that of lawless cities where the thieves run amok, public drug use and homelessness encampments not only blight but interrupt public thoroughfares. Come 2024, can we possibly see a return of Donald Trump in office? Now let's talk about that intro. Let's talk about that intro. Do you know now? Do you think that that's a real effective dissection of what the media thoroughfare is painting the issue as out there right now?
It's interesting because it's mostly on the local level in that intro. And it's fairly easy for voters to turn right wing on the local level when it comes to things like crime or migrants. But as in New York City, you can vote for a Republican mayor and have a Democrat governor and a Democrat president that you all voted for.
So, do you think that what the local political machines are in those specific respective cities or locations will have a longer, much more strategic turnout in terms of what happens? For example, should we really expect that the state of California that's been staunchly blue for years is going to turn Republican to support Donald Trump because people are so worried about crime and immigration policy? I don't see that as a reality.
I don't see that as a reality on the national level. On the national level, the stats don't really change. You just have your few battleground states where people have any interest in what's going on. On the local level, yeah, people could start voting for Republicans for sure.
Right, and that can, I mean, I can give you an example of a state where that makes a difference. It's a state like Florida, where you have small segments of black voters peeling away and voting for either not voting or voting for Republicans. That takes a large state like Florida and makes it a giveaway for Donald Trump.
Are we making a distinction between voting for Republicans and
Staying home.
registering as Republicans?
That's a very, very, very good question because one of the phenomenons that I think that we're seeing in some of these polling is that some of these people are voting for Trump, but they're not changing to the Republican Party.
Right, right.
That was a thing that we had in Florida. There were people who voted for Trump as Democrats,
That's
sheerly
true.
out of their fundamental frustration with the Democratic Party.
Isn't the Democratic Party infuriating?
Sometimes, sometimes I wonder if they really are setting themselves up for early, early demises, or are they that incompetent?
It's true, and it's hard to know, which is really not a good place to be in.
I think the problem the Democratic Party has always suffered from is that they basically represent the same base as the Republicans, which is finance capital, the
Mhm.
military industrial complex, and the banking sectors, and they have to act as if they're in control. Interested in the concerns of the working class.
That's true.
So that schizophrenia is what causes them to suffer the kinds of political flops and foibles that they've been doing throughout years.
I think that's very true. We do need a Labor Party in this country. The Democratic Party is not it.
No, that's definitely not the case. I mean, they capitulate to the corporate sector at very, very normal intervals, disadvantaging our working class voters significantly. So
Absolutely.
let's move on to our questions. So far in the recent midterm election, the liberal city of San Francisco has made a shift to the right, with voters passing two very conservative crime bills. One measure, Prop E, blocks the police commission from quickly passing new policies, relaxes rules on officers chasing suspects in vehicles, and opens the door in police using drones. Measure F requires single adults with no children to undergo drug treatment if they are suspected of using drugs. Has the GOP won the messaging war? Now, again, that is a local issue that's local specific. But again, we have been seeing enough reporting on the crime situation in San Francisco, in New York as well. I mean, you live in New York.
Hmm.
Let's not act like there's not an over amount of concern about crime in New York that's been going on since COVID, also.
Right. Right. There used to be roving bands of children robbing places like Sephora and Saks and all these very high scale, upscale boutiques since COVID.
Really,
Actually, before COVID. But yeah,
post George Floyd.
post George Floyd. Yeah.
Wow. What was the reaction to that?
Well, obviously, they use the kids because the kids aren't going to get into serious trouble. But the reaction was kind of exaggerated. Kind of exaggerated. They clamped down.
Well, in cities like we have in San Francisco, we've seen massive exaggerations, not exaggerations, but increases in drug crime, homelessness.
Right.
Um, we have petty thefts, larcenies, smash and grabs of cars.
Hmm.
We're not going to question, that there's a legitimacy to the concerns of those states, are we?
No, we're not going to question that. Those are legit concerns.
But you think that the way in which crime is being framed in these California cities is being done in a way that's disingenuous?
Um, I think so. I saw a video with one woman who said that we're already on the left. We're just asking to move a little bit to the right.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was disturbing. We're just asking you to move just a scooch, just a little bit to the right. Um, and maybe that's how a lot of people see this, or they see it as asking for what is basic. I saw another guy in the video saying they just want what's basic. They want what the officials and mayors and everyone is saying, but they want them to mean it.
Do you think that this definitely means that the languaging on crime has been won by the GOP?
I think so. It's almost invisibilized by the people. They don't see it as themselves really moving rightwards.
Is there any way to address the issue of crime from a left progressive perspective without surrendering to some of these more ridiculous kind of defund concepts
Hmm.
that come out of academia that do not have any real world salience?
I would think the left approaches would be more holistic, which would require money, which could be a real problem in terms of the budgets. But, the fund has showed us you can move money around in a budget. That doesn't have to be taboo. But I would think a leftward response would be more holistic, more getting to the root of the problems. What do you think?
I mean, I think I would assume that the left would have the capacity to address the issue of crime in a way that confronts political economy and the actual social realities that creates crime, poverty, and things of that nature, as opposed to just demonizing poor people as being the treaties of the streets that just need to be purged.